Ooh, ooh,
mother, wife, sister, daughter. Survivor, coach, teacher, lover. Doctor, fighter, nurse, writer. Leader, soulmate, fearless, great. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. Bestie, cousin, shy, pretty. Auntie, wifey, proud, feisty. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. Older, boss, brilliant, soldier. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. Cute, flawless, sexy, lawless. Survivor, thriver, lover, teacher.
Hello and welcome to When Docs Talk. We thank you all for being here. You've joined When Docs Talk. We are focusing on Sheroes today, but before we launch into that, we want to tell you a little bit about who we are. We thank you for joining us. We are When Docs Talk. We are a collaborative of emergency physicians and nurses, as well as health practitioners in general. And what we're here to do is we're here to discuss healthcare topics, but also topics outside of healthcare. We want to put our pulse on the nation and see what's on your minds. And it's very clear right now that what's on your minds is coronavirus, COVID-19. It sort of came in and turned our worlds upside down. So we thought the first thing we need to talk about is that, because anything else would be tone deaf. So welcome to When Docs Talk. Here at Docs Talk, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia, but we have women from all over the United States joining us today. And we ourselves are also not just from Atlanta originally. So let me tell you a little bit about us. We at Docs Talk are a collaborative. You can see us all here on the screen. I'm Dr. Adidiung Ipe Apo, also known as Adidiung, Dr. Didi, Dr. Ipe. Any one of them is fine. I'm happy to be here. I'm a board certified emergency physician, also certified in internal medicine, but I'm also a wife, a proud mother. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, so 305, loving the house. Shout out to 305. But I was born to Nigerian parents, and so I'm spreading all that Naija love all around. Naija represent, especially Akwa Ibom, Isongo. I'm happy to be here because I want to share with you all my experiences, but I also want to learn from you all. So please, throughout, post your comments. Welcome to When Docs Talk. Let's also hear from the rest of our dynamic crew. Ladies, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Morgan, you're still on mute, honey.
Hey, again, my name is Natasha Morgan. I originally hail from Brooklyn, New York. I am a registered nurse here in the Atlanta area. I am an emergency department nurse. I am the mother of one son. He is 19 years old. And glad to be here.
Welcome, welcome. Sonia?
Hi, so I'm Sonia Pinson, or Dr. Sonia Pinson. I'm originally from Atlanta and was raised in Peachtree City. Trained in family medicine and board certified in family medicine, and right now doing urgent care emergency medicine. I'm also a veteran of 9 years from the Navy. Very glad and excited about being part of this project. Just excited to be able to bring different types of stories from different types of backgrounds, and excited to work with these great group of women. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia. Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Zilladari. I am an emergency room physician here in Atlanta as well. Work at one of the largest hospitals here in the Southeast. Really excited about the stories we're going to get to tell today and the work that we're doing here.
And last but not least, tell them about yourself, Tawny.
Hey guys, my name is Tawny Shea Jackson. I'm an emergency medicine doc. I do a lot of travel medicine. Super excited to be a part of this group. We have some phenomenal women being represented here today, and I'm definitely representing all the Jamaicans and the people from the islands today. Super happy to be here, and I can't wait for us to get started.
Great. Thank you so much. So that's it. You have it. That's coronavirus crew. No, we're When Docs Talk. But for today, we are the coronavirus crew. Basically, we want to talk a little bit about coronavirus. We obviously chose this because that's what all of you want to know about. That's what's turned our lives upside down. That is what's had us in our house for virtually 2 months. Some of us a little bit shorter, some of us a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Okay. Tell us a little bit about coronavirus. Morgan, you have some of the stats.
Okay.
Because I know
as of May 11th,
yeah,
there are over 4 million cases worldwide. The U.S. is the epicenter with over 1.3 million cases.
Okay. What else do we know about the disease?
Yeah, so we've all been watching these numbers tick up. I'm sure on the side of some of our national news stations, we've had about 80,000, almost 80,000 deaths in America. And just to put that in perspective, that's like filling some of our largest football stadiums full of people and all of them being dead. Astronomical numbers we're talking about here.
Yeah, I agree, Liz. You know, in fact, if you look at the numbers of people that have died in 2 months from coronavirus, from what I understand, that's more than the number of people that died in the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and several conflicts that we've been in. And that's just in a matter of 2 months. Yeah. So that's really important information. I know that you all have heard a lot about this, but Tawny, tell us a little bit about coronavirus. What is this coronavirus?
So I think it's one of the viruses that are not well studied. And I think that's a part of the issues that we're facing. But it's a distinct variety of disease. It causes a distinct variety of number of diseases in humans and animals. It's from the word corona itself means crown. And you probably in the media are hearing COVID-19 used synonymously with coronavirus. And it's actually, when you break down the name, you'll see that corona, the CO comes from that, virus, the VI comes from that, and the D comes from disease, and 19, since that was the year that we kind of honed in on this virus itself.
Absolutely. So like you said, we're still learning about this virus. You all know it's communicable, so it's an infectious disease. It's spread by droplets, so the little particles of liquid that would come from a cough or a sneeze, or even from talking. And the things that we know, at least from the CDC, in terms of common symptoms when people present with it, would be things like fevers and chills, body aches, headaches, sore throat, a new loss of sense of smell or taste. But there are a lot of symptoms that we're seeing as practitioners. I know when I've been in the emergency department, and several of you have talked about patients who are just coming in with things like abdominal pain and diarrhea. So it's evolving what we know about it and how it presents. But here at When Docs Talk, we don't want to talk about things that you can learn on a quick Google search. So you can look in Google and you can find out, how it's spread and the common symptoms. What we want to look at is we want to look at the social aspects. We want to look at how this disease is affecting us throughout the nation and not things that you can read about. So I want you to know what's going on inside your neighbor's house, because I know it's been a while since you've seen your neighbors in many cases. We've kind of been in our own little silos, our own little apartments and houses throughout. And so what we plan to do at When Docs Talk with this COVID-19 series is we want to talk about women in COVID-19. We want to talk about the intersections of race and ethnicity in COVID-19. Who is it affecting? We want to talk about immigration and COVID-19. We want to talk about the global response, things that we're not hearing about as regularly. We want to have that discussion. And more importantly, we want to bridge the gap, because I don't know about you, but I feel like now that we've all been sheltering in place, we're losing a lot of that human connection. We're not talking as much. We're not seeing each other. I'm a little bit worried for our kids, especially. I want us to hear stories, and we're going to start off with stories of women today. So let me actually quiz you all. I want you guys to tell us what you think. What percentage of women make up the healthcare force in the United States? How many jobs, or what percentage of jobs I want to talk about? Would you say it's 20, 70, 90%, 10%, less than 10%?
I think it's B.
Well, you're right. If you guessed B, you're absolutely right. So women make up, there we go, Sonia, she got it. And all of you at home, I don't know if you guessed B, but you need to know that women make up to 70% of healthcare jobs. So what does this tell you? That means we're on the front lines. We're the nurses, we're the doctors, we're the medical techs and x-ray techs. So that's one reason we chose to highlight women, but that's not the only reason. So we've all heard about coronavirus and how it's hit our nation and how people are losing jobs left and right. But did you know that more than half of the job losses in the past 2 months have been women? Did you also know that there's mounting data to suggest that women are impacted by the coronavirus because they're victims of domestic abuse and intimate partner violence? Studies are showing us that here in the United States and even outside, there was one study in China that shows that women are forced to shelter in place. And because of that, they're now bearing the brunt of frustrations. Or if they were already in a situation where there was intimate partner violence, they were actually seeing that more. Now, another thing that we want to impress upon you, why women, is because we know, especially we in this collaborative as medical practitioners, we know that women have many hats. Ladies, you wear the hat of whatever profession you're in. You're a daughter, you're a mother, you're often a caregiver. And so many women have had to work during this coronavirus pandemic, but also come home to do the homeschooling that we're now thrust into, and also are caregivers if we have anyone in our family who gets sick. So recognizing how amazing you all are, how many hats you wear, and also in celebration of Mother's Day, that was yesterday, we decided to start our series with When Docs Talk coronavirus series, focusing on you. And I want you to know that this is going to be a 2-part series. Today, we're blessed to be joined by several women who have agreed to tell their stories, agreed to tell us what they've been going through and what life looks like. So we're going to peek into their windows. Part 2 on Saturday is going to be a collective where we hear more stories and survivors, but we have 3 gynecological and women's health experts that are going to come join us and tell all of our viewers what you need to know about women's health during this pandemic. So you need to know what COVID cannot wait for. They're going to drop that knowledge on you. They're also going to tell you how to maintain optimum health during this whole COVID-19 pandemic. So definitely don't miss it. But let's go ahead and delve into what we came here today to do. The first thing that we want to do here at When Docs Talk is wish all of our mothers a very happy belated Mother's Day. We hope that everyone celebrated you very well. We pray that this is not too hard on you and your families, although I know for many of you it is. So happy Mother's Day to everyone. And in speaking about mothers, we are going to go ahead and bring some mothers that we know very well. Morgan, how are you doing? Let's unmute yourself for a second.
I'm good. I'm great.
So we couldn't do a show about women and mothers without talking to some of our mothers. And the reason we thought it's important is because aside from the fact that we're honoring mothers and women, we know that older adults are actually very severely impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. We see them dying and having higher rates of illness and morbidity than the general population. So we invited our mothers, both of them retired nurses, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about how this has been for them, because we're looking at women, all ages, all demographics. Let's start off with Mrs. Helen Ipe. We're going to bring her on in just one moment. All right, and welcome to When Docs Talk. We're back and we have a special treat. We're joined by Mrs. Helen Ipe. She is a retired nurse. Mommy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Great. So you're here on When Docs Talk and we're talking about the coronavirus pandemic. And I wanted you to just give some of our ladies, our viewers out there, some words of advice. What advice do you have for women who are really having a hard time during this pandemic?
Well, I would like for everyone to trust in God, to have faith, to observe social distancing, proper hand washing with soap, and also teach the children how to do the same. I want us to have faith that this in itself will pass away.
It will pass. It will pass. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mommy. You stay well over in Miami, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Morgan, I understand that your mom is joining you there.
Yes, she is. I want to introduce my mother, Myrna Morgan. She too is a retired nurse, and she has a couple things that she wants to share with the When Docs Talk audience, her perspective on the COVID-19 virus.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Hello. Welcome, Miss Myrna.
Well, it's, as you know, Tasha works as a nurse, and you guys are frontliners, and I worry about her, and she worry about coming home to me. And what I usually do is before she goes to work, we pray together. And if we don't get a chance to pray because we don't get a chance to hug and kiss like we used to, I'll say, Tash, don't forget, pray before you get on the job. She said, yes, Mommy, I do. And as a retired nurse, also, I can understand more than my friends why washing your hands, being cautious, wearing your mask is important. And sometimes I think I get on their nerves because I emphasize it a lot. Even when I'm in the street and in the supermarket and I see people around my age group without a mask, I'll say, where's your mask? And they'll give me various excuses.
Yeah.
And I'll try to convince them that they should wear one.
Excellent.
Even my daughter said, Mom, leave people alone. I said, I will not. I will always tell them in love that they need to wear a mask and they need to do social distancing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Spoken like a true retired nurse. Thank you for being here at When Docs Talk, and stay safe, stay well. Keep telling them about those masks, okay?
Okie dokie. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, without further ado, we're going to bring the rest of the When Docs Talk crew, because we have some special guests that we want to introduce to you that are here to share their stories with you. All right, and make sure everyone's unmuted so we can do some introductions here. All right. So Liz, I understand that you're going to tell us about our first guest.
I am. I'm so excited to introduce to you all my dear friend, Dr. Gina Mullen. You can see her there at the bottom center of the screen. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you, Liz.
So just by way of a brief introduction, Gina and I met as residents at Grady Memorial Hospital. We actually met before residency because we rode up together. So speaking of women wearing many hats, Gina is a wife of a wonderful husband, Jim Mullen, a mother of a beautiful daughter, as well as an emergency room medical director. I have seen her grow so much. I'm so proud of her. And so Gina's story is really fascinating. Jim was an emergency room nurse working at Grady while we were in residency. He decided he was going to go get some extra letters behind his name and went to law school where he was practicing as a lawyer, had passed his bar and was getting going when he felt the call to go back to the front lines and work as a nurse in New York. So Gina, tell us a little bit about what that was like for, how did Jim end up in New York?
So I think he just was, watching the news. I felt like CNN was on the TV all day long to see what was going on with this pandemic. And one day he, was doing a conference call, and he had hit some golf balls in the morning. And he was just like, why am I hitting golf balls and doing virtual conference calls? He was like, I could be helping out. Like, the country needs nurses, and I'm a nurse and I have the skills they need. He was just like, I just couldn't live with myself if I couldn't, be able to lend a helping hand. So, I mean, at that moment, you're just kind of like, whatever selfish reason you wanted to bring up, could you really do it? I think I have the pleasure of having several people in my family who have served the military. So thank you, Dr. Benson. And, I know that some people just have like a duty to serve, and, you don't ever want to diminish that. And I just knew that as a wife, I just needed to support him in that decision. Although, whatever fiber in my being was like, no, I was like, I have to.
But tell me though, Gina, that sounds really noble, but I want to know the first thought that went through your head when he said, I'm going to New York.
Yeah, the first thought was, why? I think a lot of it is like, okay, and you want to be selfish. You're just like, well, I'm already fighting coronavirus. Like, we already have one member in our family doing it. We don't need two. Like, I'm doing our part. But I think, at the beginning, you're just kind of, all these selfish reasons flood. And I think you just have to take a step back and figure out what your partner wants, and how you can support them without compromising family dynamics and different things. And, we had that whole discussion as well.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about how he's doing.
He's doing great. He actually got home 2 days ago.
Hey! So he's back from New York?
He's back from New York. Yep.
Awesome. And he's doing well?
Uh-huh.
He's doing well?
He's doing well. Yep. He is. He cooked some steaks yesterday on the grill for Mother's Day and served me and Gracie, and just has been awesome. So, he's back and getting ready for a deposition tomorrow, back to his lawyer duties.
Oh, wow. They put him to work like right away?
Yep.
He didn't need any sort of quarantine or anything?
Oh, yes. No, he did. So he completed 2 weeks of quarantine at a hotel. He went through like a nurse association that was given the hotel rooms through the Hilton and stayed there for 2 weeks.
Okay, awesome. Well, you tell Jim that we at When Docs Talk are so happy that he's back, that he's safe. You go ahead and give yourself a big old hug and a medal for being like wife of the year, for being so understanding and supporting him through it. And you give Gracie, your 2.5-year-old, almost 3, you give her a big kiss.
I will.
Thank you for being here with us at When Docs Talk.
Gina's been on CNN and she's going to be back on CNN tonight. So you all check her out.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yes. Thank you, Gina.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right. So speaking about mothers, let's talk a little bit about high-risk groups, because I want to talk a little quickly about pregnancy and coronavirus. We know for sure, based on the CDC data, that the groups that tend to be most impacted, highest risk groups, those are the ones who, when they get coronavirus disease, tend to get more sick, are older adults, people with severe asthma or chronic lung disease, people with chronic kidney disease, especially end-stage renal disease on dialysis, diabetics, those who are severely obese, people with serious heart conditions, people who are immunocompromised. So think about your chemotherapy patients or patients with severe HIV/AIDS, and then liver disease. But the question comes up to me a lot. They ask, do people who are pregnant are they in a high risk group? That's the better question. And the truth of the matter is that we don't know. It doesn't seem like we know whether pregnant women are higher risk, but we just presume that they are because a lot of times they have a compromised immune system. We know that with other illnesses like the flu and so forth, they don't do as well. And so pregnant women are often kind of this silent high risk category that they haven't named outright. And the reason I say that is because we're bringing on our next guest who have a lot to say about being pregnant and new mothers in the coronavirus era. Sonia, you want to tell us a little bit about our guest on the bottom, who, if you could unmute yourself, please, Rosie.
Hello.
Hi. So yes, I'm introducing Miss Rosie Washington. I just want to thank her for participating in this. And so Rosie, she goes to work every day on the front lines fighting COVID-19. But also, I think sometimes we don't think about the fact that the people that are working in healthcare doing these things are people and they have lives. So she's a mother. And then on top of that, she is in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. Could you just kind of share, I guess, from the standpoint of number one, I guess, how long have you been doing this? And number 2, kind of how are your thoughts, or what are your thoughts about being pregnant during all of this?
I've been a nurse for a little over 10 years. The scariest part is just wondering, about when it's time to deliver, if everything's going to be okay, if I'm going to have to leave my child at the hospital. Other than that, going to work, is what I know. Nursing is what I love. So I still go. I just make sure, hand washing. I wear my mask. I have faith. I'm not too fearless. Most of us is not really fearless that's in the medical field. So I keep the faith and I take it one day at a time.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, what's the hardest thing that you've had to do being pregnant? Because you have 2 kids. I know you're a friend of mine, and I know that, you're a single mom, and I want to know, what is the scariest or hardest thing being pregnant in the age of coronavirus? Because I can't even imagine it. I can't imagine being pregnant right now.
My hardest thing is teaching. Like them being out of school has been like the hardest thing ever. I don't really worry about the health aspect because like even when their doctors call, like, how your son asthma doing? I'm like, well, I'm going to control it until I can't control it no more before I even bring him into the hospital. So I'm not really worried about that part. It's just more of they're at home, they're running out of things to do. And now I'm a teacher too.
Right. I know the struggle is real. I see Sarah laughing at us over there in the corner because she's a teacher. She's going to tell us about her experience. You know, there's a great question we have from one of our Facebook viewers. Jody Ann Mosley wants to know, how are pregnant women to be treated when they go to the hospital for delivery? There have been sad cases of women going and being denied care or receiving slow care because of all the testing and distancing. Does anyone want to take that? Like when you go, you specifically, Rosie, I would like you to answer that.
So me, I haven't been to the hospital, thank God, because I refuse to go. But when I go to my regular clinic appointments, they just having us stay 6 feet apart. They're getting us in as quick as possible. I'm also a high-risk pregnancy, so I really shouldn't be out here. But so I go every week, and every other week I go twice a week. So when I go to the high-risk doctor, they only let 3 people in at a time. And they'll send you back out to your car instead of having you sit in the waiting room. They'll call you, let you know when they're ready for you. My other clinic just make sure everybody have on a mask, everybody's 6 feet apart, and then they try to get you in as quick as possible.
Okay.
The hospital, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I am hearing that I may have to take a rapid COVID test before delivery.
I've had some patients say that they have to take a rapid COVID test, and if they want their partner to join them during the delivery, they have to do the same. Some places are saying if you don't have a designated partner, or if you have somebody who's not a very close partner, so if it's just a friend, that they may not be able to come in. So I think it depends on the hospital, and it just depends on, you know, the setting. But I think you might have to take that test. I think so.
I have heard of, and I have been avoiding that test.
Okay.
Because my gag reflex is not that good. So, I've been avoiding it.
Well,
I just had my aunt who she said that she had hers Friday, and she was like, you know what? As much as people say it, you know, it looks bad and it feels bad, hers wasn't that bad.
Okay. So when it's time for delivery, ready or not, I'm gonna take it because it's what's best for me and the baby.
That's right. Well, Rosie, we really thank you for being here. Hang on for just a little bit, because I want you to be here when we have the discussion with this lovely lady on our top, at least my top right-hand corner. We have Dr. Sarah Grant. Welcome to the show. Dr. Grant is actually really, really phenomenal woman because she is a recent PhD holder. She just got her PhD not too long ago. She is a second grade teacher at a local elementary school here in Atlanta. And she just had a baby just a couple months ago. So she had the baby right before all of this craziness started. And I want her to tell us about all of those hats she wears. What is it like teaching? What is it like to having a new baby? All of it. So please, let's welcome Miss Sarah Grant, Dr. Sarah Grant.
So first, I want to say thank you to all of you, because your hearts of service are what is keeping our country alive right now, and just what is fueling all of the positivity that is occurring. And it has been rough. So I delivered on January 17th, and I was going to not go back to work to teaching until at least the middle of April, but mid-March, March 13th, they decide we're going to do online school. And my long-term substitute, she just approached me and said, I don't think I can do online school. And I said, okay, I'm going to come out of maternity leave, with an 8-week-old and attempt this. And it has been just as chaotic for me as it has for all of you, because I am always wanting to meet my students' needs in a very individualistic way. And I'm also a control freak. And so it has been so hard for me to relinquish all of those roles onto the parent, and to also realize that there is nothing normal about you sitting down at your home to do school. Yeah. And so the students log on with me a couple times a week, and half the time I'm holding a screaming baby, and they look at him on the screen and laugh, and they think it's hilarious. But honestly, it's been this really big juggling act of, how much do I engage the students without being overbearing on their parents, because at a second grade level, the parents are having to help them log on and help them stay online. And then I have had a lot of prayers for my students and their families because their social and emotional growth at this time is stagnant. Unless you have a sibling at home to interact with, I'm terrified for my students and their social well-being right now.
I understand that. I can only imagine the isolation that we're feeling as adults,
Right.
let alone kids, who are just struggling to come into themselves. Part of school is learning how to interact with people, and that's a large part of their lives that have been taken away. So I understand that. One quick question about that: who's having a harder time, the parents or the kids?
I think the parents.
The parents.
And something too is that everybody looks forward to summer. Everybody looks forward to that time with their children. But there is nothing normal about a parent sitting for 8 hours a day at home with a child. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's not. It's definitely not normal to do that for an extended period of time for longer than a 6-week summer. And so I definitely think that the parents are having a harder time. And they're also, there's this large pendulum swing. There's either the parents who want 8 hours of work or a parent who says even 30 minutes of work, I can't do it. I'm trying to do, what I can do at home to work. So there's just so many family members wearing so many hats. And I have so much respect and empathy for the parents because now that I'm a new mom and having, uninterrupted sleep and not being on a schedule at all, I pray literally every day, like before I get online with my students, please just let him sleep for half an hour so that I have some face-to-face contact with these kids because they might not get any other face-to-face contact today because their parents are busy working. And I think it's rough.
I agree. It's definitely rough. I think it's rough because I've called you and reached out to you many times. The last thing I want you to tell us is a little bit about your new motherhood. I congratulate you on your new baby. How old is he now?
He's almost 4 months.
Almost 4 months. What's the hardest thing?
Oh, I have no mom group. I mean, I have no camaraderie with other new moms. We get on Zoom calls and, I see my friends through a screen, but I'm a very social person and I am just missing that camaraderie that I have with other new moms. And there's only so much that you can learn on a screen. And I've often found that I'm dumber because I get off the screen after being on it all day and I can't string a sentence together. I can't have a conversation with my husband. And I'm flabbergasted. It's so hard.
I can only imagine. I am not on the screen all day, but even for the long periods of time that I have to be, it's hard. Dr. Grant, I thank you. I thank you for your words. I thank you for answering our questions and for being a guest on here. I wish you good luck, and I hope that you'll find a network of support. For those of you watching the show, definitely post your questions and comments. Hopefully we can form a little bit of a network of support for each other. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Our next guest who's going to come on is going to tell us a little bit about the struggle of small business owners. I just want to remind you that you're watching When Docs Talk. Thank you so much for coming. Please post your questions, your comments. We're happy to have you. We're going on live to talk about what you haven't seen for months. The women, the people in your lives that you see every day or would see every day who are gone. And I want you to know that all the people that you've heard about that are struggling and filing for unemployment and don't have a job, I want you to understand that there are mothers, sisters, daughters who are going through it, because women actually account for more than 60% of the job losses in just the past 2 months. And to tell us a little bit about that is our next guest. So we have Chanel King, and Tawny's going to tell us a little bit about her.
So I had the privilege of kind of learning about Chanel before actually meeting her. And so my understanding, and Chanel, you can chime in and give me more information, is I hear that you're a small business owner, and specifically you are the third year co-owner of a salon called Amore. So tell us what you do at Amore.
So I am co-owner and stylist at Amore Hair Salon. Like you said, prior to this is our third year in business for ourselves. I do everything from natural hair, relaxed hair, healthy hair, all that good stuff. And minus the weaves. but yeah, that's pretty much it. We just do hair care services at my location in Decatur, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia.
So tell me a little bit about how your business has changed. I know that for a lot of us, we are kind of on the healthcare front line, but I think that it's super important for us to get the perspective from the business owners. And as a female business owner, I just want to get some insight into what your experience has been like.
My experience so far has been very stressful. Some of the issues we were facing at the beginning was losing clients coming in at the early stages of the coronavirus coming to the United States. So in the meantime, we're trying to promote and still gain clients and get new clients and try to get our old clients to understand we already have to follow state board sanitation practices already. So we're still practicing those practices and trying to make everybody feel secure about coming into getting their hair care services. However, there was more scare from the media and more scare from what was on social media, and everywhere you was hearing so many rumors and so many different things that you didn't know what was true and what was not true. So it dwindled down very quickly. By the time I say mid-February, a lot of us were sitting in the salon hoping that somebody will walk in that door. At the same time, you still had your bills you had to pay for the salon as well as your personal bills. And then next, it was like, okay, we're going to shut the salons down. When they shut the salons down, now if we're not working, we're not making any money. We don't even have the chance of getting walk-ins here or walk-ins there. And not being prepared for that was the biggest struggle.
Okay.
So I have a question I have to ask. So you're talking about the struggle and you're talking about how if no one's in your chair, you're not making money. And that sounds hard because no money in, nobody in your chair, at least for a good 2 weeks, maybe longer in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what your thoughts are on the hairdresser in Texas who was arrested because she basically ignored the orders from the state to stay in. And her whole contention was, listen, it's my right to work and I cannot afford to social distance or to close my salon. And you know that we here in Georgia are opened first in the nation. So I want to know from your perspective, as a hairdresser, as a small business owner, what are your thoughts on that lady in Texas?
I don't blame her. There was several times that I felt the need to do what I had to do to take care of my personal life because bills did not stop coming. There were some companies that were being lenient. There were some companies that were working out arrangements, but there were a lot that were not. For example, it wasn't enforced for property owners who are landlords or building managers at apartments to give any type of leniency. So here I was getting late notices and late fees in addition to not working and not knowing when I'm going to work again and trying to figure out how am I going to handle this? So I had nights of not sleeping, trying to figure out where is this money going to come from? Why didn't you have a game plan? What are you going to do from this point on?
I know that a lot of salon owners were transitioning to doing in-home appointments and wearing the appropriate PPE gear. Was that something that you were able to incorporate into your business and your business practice?
Very few clients were trusting in that. I think I may have had 2 or 3 clients that were willing to allow me to come into their home. We did a lot of sanitizing and cleaning prior to, before, and during the service. A lot of protective wear. However, that most of the time that couldn't even pay one of your bills.
Okay.
I understand. I heard that the response is just not enough from unemployment. Small business owners are saying that they're not getting their checks. We feel your struggle. We really do.
Mm-hmm.
We at least empathize with it. Not all of us feel it. So let me not make it seem lighter by saying we feel it. We can't imagine what you're going through. But I want to thank you for coming on the show and telling us what small business owners are going through and what it looks like for some of these women who are losing their jobs and the ability to feed their family. And
Yes.
we hope that things will work out for you and you'll find a way to be innovative and still make money doing what you love to do. Thank you
Definitely.
so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invite.
So our next guest right here, if you can just unmute yourself, Miss Ashton. So Ashton is a lady who is supposed to graduate. In fact, she's definitely going to graduate, but unfortunately, because of coronavirus, she's not going to have the ceremony. So let's put her back in. All right, Miss Ashton, here she is. So basically, hi, how are you? She's actually a former cheerleader at Georgia State University. She's the president and founder of the Foundation for the International Medical Relief of Children's chapter at GSU, yep. And then she's also graduating this year with a degree in biology. Welcome.
Hello.
So I had to have you on here, and the reason why is because I want you to be kind of the mouthpiece for people your age, which is not always the fun thing to do because we understand that everybody's different. But I want you to tell us a little bit about people in their 20s and how they're perceiving the coronavirus. Do you think they're taking it seriously?
Well, I know like some they're just not taking it like seriously. They like, in the beginning when people were like, oh, it's just like the flu, like some people still have that mentality. So that's why like a lot of people are still like in Piedmont Park, still doing whatever, going out with their friends, having huge parties and stuff. Other people like me, I'm not trying to risk it. I really just stay to myself in my little apartment downtown. Me and my friends, we might come and visit each other every blue moon, say what's up, so we won't go crazy, just staying at home all the time. So, I mean, yeah, it's a variety. Some people, they take it like strictly like, don't come to my house at all. Some people, they'll like, okay, I might go, to the grocery store, come back, might see my friend one time. Others, they just act like it's a normal day.
Okay. So it's a variety. You have some people who are like, don't come to my house. I'm not even trying to see anybody. I'm maintaining lots of social distance. And you have others, it sounds like, that, are out in Piedmont Park and Gresham Park and having their block parties. Fair enough. I want to know from you what it's like, because I understand that you, Ashton, are one of the first women in your family who is slated to graduate from a 4-year college. And that's all on hold. And I've heard from students all across America how it feels like they're cheated because they don't get their graduations. Were you planning a big family celebration for your graduation?
Well, okay. Well, when I graduated high school, I didn't have the whole, graduation thing in mind. When I graduated high school, actually, my cousin, shout out to Kanaya, she planned it. She planned a surprise graduation for me. And basically, I was pretty sure that this whole thing was about to happen again for my college graduation. I like celebrations. I just don't, like planning them. And my family, they're more excited. I'm pretty sure they're more excited than me and stuff. So, they just most likely we was going to have a big celebration at my house or some venue or somewhere. Yeah.
Somewhere. Well, you know what, Ashton? I really hope that at some point your family is able to celebrate you. I don't know how it's going to be, but you have a big family. I understand more than 30, almost 50 people between all your cousins, aunties, and so forth. And so I'm proud of you. And I want to say to you and the rest of the class of 2020, whether it's high school, whether it's college, grad school, whoever you are, wherever you are out there, congratulations. I'm sorry that your shine got taken away a little bit, but we honor you and we celebrate you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we have to talk a little bit about New York, because whenever we turn on whatever news station it is, whether it's CNN or wherever, we hear about New York, New York, New York. And we understand that we at the United States, we're the epicenter of the world, but within the United States, New York is the epicenter. We hear about cases, we hear about bodies that are unaccounted for, and I want to get the New York experience. And so I've invited Miss Obot Okoko. Miss Obot Okoko is here with us. She is a journalist and a freelance writer. She is the first female president of AKASAN, which is the Akwa Ibom State Association of Nigeria in the USA. And she's a political activist and small business owner. And I want her to tell us a little bit about what's going on in New York. What's
Hello,
New York looking like? I can hear you very well.
Thank you so very much for putting up this forum, and I thank all of you for the contribution that you are trying to make, the change that you're trying to make in this country. As a mother, I was listening to your mom that we always have to pray, and I listened to the second mother that was always telling the daughter to wear face mask.
Yes.
And pray. And my daughter was right by my side. And she looked at me and laughed. I said, that is the same thing I've been telling you to do. We pray, always pray, because we do not have anything apart from our God.
I hear you. Auntie, I wanted to ask you something, and I call her Auntie just because, you know, in Nigeria, we respect respect those who are older than us. I have to ask you, because I know I've had this conversation with you, and I don't want you to leave without telling our viewers about this. But one of the reasons we brought you on is because you have suffered a loss. This has hit you very close to home, and I want you to tell us about what happened.
My sister and my friend, she's a medical doctor too, even though she's a vet doctor. She graduated at Cornell University. I was with her first week of March. And when I went there, she said, I have cold, don't come nearer to me. They say we should be 6 feet apart. I said, excuse me, what? I just went and hugged her. And we do a lot of things together.
Yes.
Then I left. I didn't know that the cold has progressed, and she's a workaholic. She can have 2-3 surgeries in her clinic and come back very late. So if I don't hear from her, I'll say, look at this woman. She's still in the clinic. Then there was a clergy that died in Harlem. And I said, she should be the first one to tell me, oh, did you hear this man that died? When I didn't hear that call, I called her. I said, what's going on? Obviously, she did not respond. I waited 5 minutes. She did not respond. I said, no, it's not like Julie. Her name is Dr. Julie Butler. And she's from a family of 4 doctors.
I see. So what happened to her?
So the next thing I called, the husband told me, oh, I'm going to call you back. Julie is in ICU. It's complicated. And I screamed. I said, what do you mean? I'll call you back. Tell me right now. And he said, she's been intubated. I kind of lost it. But anyway, we were praying for her to come back.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just for our viewers, when she says she's intubated, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, this is what we do in the medical profession when we put a tube from the mouth, usually the mouth, sometimes the nose, into the patient's airway and attach them to a ventilator so that they can breathe. So she was intubated, and Auntie, I heard that ultimately she didn't make it. Is that the case?
Yeah. In fact, this is what happened. She was intubated, and about 8 days or 7 days. No. About 9 days, the husband called me to tell me that she was going to be released.
Okay.
Goes, but Julie is coming home. I said, okay, I'll talk to her when she comes back. And he picked her up around 5, 6, and I was busy distributing food for other people. So then somebody called me. Have you talked to the doctor? I said, doctor? I said, yes. He said, have you called her? I said, yes. I said, not that I've talked to the husband. She's back from the hospital. He said, have a glass of water. But this is what happening. Everybody is asking how you're going to feel. That she passed.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, you mean she left the hospital to come home and die 1 hour after? An hour after she died.
So she had just come home from the hospital.
No, but she ate. And she texted. She texted to people that I'm home, I am eating. And how can you die after that? You guys are medical doctors.
Auntie, let me just say something, because first of all, I am so sorry to hear that kind of a story. And I have heard I've seen both professionally and heard from other people about how sometimes patients with this disease, they get better. Yeah. And they're discharged, or even in the hospital, they just seem like they're on the right track, and then they can actually pass away later. I have a good friend of mine whose father-in-law recently passed after having been discharged. And so I know it happens, and I'm so sorry about your loss. And I want to thank you so much for joining us here and sharing your story about your sister and about what New York is like. And I'm going to add somebody into the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'm going to bring in another New Yorker. We have New Yorkers in the house, and I'm going to let Morgan introduce this person to you all.
Okay, so as I told you guys earlier, I originally hail from Brooklyn, New York. As we know, New York City is the epicenter of this coronavirus, and I am pleased to introduce my sister, who is a principal with the Department of Education. Sis, I understand that you're a mere 11 miles or so from New York City. You're not actually in the city, but you're not too far from the city. How are you dealing with this, being so close?
Well, thank you for this forum, just to share my perspective. But it's frightening, you know. As an educator, we were given a certain amount of time to prepare the teachers to teach remotely. And I'm a mere 15 miles away, drive into New York City. And it was really daunting as you started to hear what was happening each day unfolding.
I could only imagine. I mean, we hear about what sounds apocalyptic. I mean, we hear about bodies of trucks that are found. We hear about people dying and their family members can't find them. We see on the news stories about in New York City, there was a rabbi who died and several people came to pay their respects. And there was some political tensions around that. What does New York look like right now? Like, is it getting better? Are we seeing some silver linings, or I should say rather a light at the end of the tunnel? Or is it still ghost town, apocalyptic, everybody's scared?
Well, they're cautiously optimistic. The governor was on today discussing that certain parts of the state would open up perhaps some businesses on a limited basis by May 15th, but our mayor stated that's no way near for New York City. It's desolate. The streets are empty, and they have put in we have to wear masks everywhere. and there's an order if you don't wear masks or if you're not social distancing, you can be fined. There was a funeral that happened in the Williamsburg where a prominent rabbi had passed, and hundreds, as is the practice of devout followers, had flooded the streets and got into altercations with engagement with the police officers. So it was really frightening to see. The mayor wanted to address the fact that they need to be safe, but that was something that we couldn't even believe when we saw it. But for the most part, people are distancing and practicing good habits right now.
You mentioned something that intrigued me, because you said that everybody has to wear masks, everyone has to social distance, or else they get a fine. I think most of us watching this around the country, we're all familiar with, being asked to wear masks and being asked to social distance. But here in Georgia, I'm not familiar with me actually getting in trouble for not doing it. So I think that that's really unique in New York, that you could actually get in trouble. And I think maybe, I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's something we need to do everywhere?
I think because the urgency is here, as you stated, we're hearing stories about, I had a staff member whose one parent had passed away, whether it was due to COVID or I say it's like connected to COVID, because they couldn't, when they came to resuscitate the emergency personnel, they couldn't do anything because there was given an order that they couldn't resuscitate because they were afraid of air being transmitted to the workers. They couldn't even get a funeral home to take her on. And then her father passed away in 2 days.
Wow.
So the only way that they managed to get she got her parents to have a service was that her sister from Connecticut had them deliver the body to Connecticut, and then they were able to have that. And it was just really daunting to even think that they were trying to get people whom had maybe worked with funeral homes, if they would come in and volunteer to take on. So we feel it. So to hear that there's a fine, many of us respect that. I can't go to Costco without being told I need to wear a mask. If I go to a supermarket, 50 at a time, for example, let's say Whole Foods, there's a line where everyone's 6 feet distancing, and as 2 people come out, 2 people go in. So they're really adhering to it.
I'm happy that that's the case. I put this question from Sharon Jameson up on here because I think it leads to the next thing I wanted to know from you. She's asking, do you think we will ever recover from this virus? I'm not sure, because people are too transient in our country. What I want to know, especially from a New Yorker who knows that New York way of life, is New York and the country ever going to be the same? Specifically with New York, how is it going to, do you think that people are going to ride the train anymore? Are people going to do the thing? Are they going to be up in Times Square like they used to be? Like, what is New York going to look like, in your opinion?
In my opinion, having survived 9/11 and the idea of getting onto the train and using public transportation, it's a way of life in New York City. So we won't be the same, but we are resilient and we will come back. And right now, people are still using public transportation. I think 3 to 4 days ago, they had closed it down completely for cleaning. But if you're aware of the public transportation system, it's difficult if you're living in a remote area, you need the train. So we'll bounce back. But will it take time? I believe it'll take time, but people want to get back to what they knew.
Yeah, I believe in New York. I always say that that's my second adopted city outside of Miami. I love New York. I'm praying for New York. And I believe you'll bounce back. We all don't know when this is going to end, but I really do believe in that New York state of mind. You guys are going to make it. Giselle,
they're strong.
They're strong. New York's strong. So I thank you for coming, and I wish you well. Stay safe out there, and God bless.
Thank you.
So this is part 1 of our series, and you've heard from several women, teachers, new mothers, people who are pregnant currently, business owners who are struggling to make ends meet. women who have lost family members, loved ones, and also from women who are struggling to make it in the epicenter and watching colleagues just kind of fall to the wayside. But we at When Docs Talk want to leave you some clinical pearls, just some things that we want you to take home from this in addition to the stories. We also want to ask that you join us on Saturday, May 16th, 7 p.m., as you hear more stories, some that will shock you, including a woman with several members of her family who struggled with coronavirus, as well as experts in the field of women's health who are going to direct you what you need to do to stay healthy, when you can possibly wait a little longer, and when you need to come in, ladies. So definitely don't miss it. But without further ado, I want to bring back our When Docs Talk crew, and we're each going to let you know our thoughts on what we'd like you to remember with this whole coronavirus pandemic, recognizing that we're all in the medical field ourselves. And here we are. Welcome back, crew. Sonia, what's the one thing you want our viewers to take from this?
I would like for them to stay home.
Okay.
Yes, I recognize that right now that definitely our state was the first to relax restrictions and opening up different services, and other states are following suit. But we recognize that still this disease is spreading, and they're anticipating that by June in the nation it's going to be up to 3,000 cases a day. This is based on the CDC projections. Right now, it's only 1,700. We also recognize that it is affecting the African diaspora disproportionately in our country. So that's also something else that we need to recognize. So I just really impart to people, I get it. You have to go to the store, you have to do things, but go wear a mask, do the social distancing, and stay home.
Great. Liz, what are you dropping on our viewers tonight?
Yeah, we were going to talk briefly about knowing where to get tested, because knowing your status is important. I know we've all been hearing about asymptomatic passing and transfer of this virus, and tests are more available than they originally were. So I'll just generally encourage people, if they go to the cdc.gov website, there's listings based on what county you live in that can tell you exactly where to go to get tested. There's also sort of some indications about like what you need. Some places require certain criteria. So before you show up, read through the website. And then generally you can just Google your local health department, and there's probably additional testing information there as well.
Great, thank you. That's really important, because I know, at least where I work, a lot of patients come into the department asking about testing. It's a big issue. Thank you, Liz.
And also, sorry, one last point is if you have a primary care doctor, sometimes they're difficult to get into in this current time, but that's where I would start. If you actually have a primary care doctor, that's a good place for you to start in terms of getting tested.
Great. What about you, Tawny? What do you have for our guest?
I see a trend where people are deciding not to wear masks as we flatten the curve. And so I want to take this as an opportunity to emphasize disease and disease spread, and how we each can be responsible for getting this disease completely gone by simply wearing your mask, and wearing your mask in places of public business. And I want you to think about, when you wear your mask, you're not just wearing your mask for yourself. You're wearing your mask for the people who might be immunocompromised. We're wearing it for the elderly. We're wearing it for the pregnant. And just that simple face mask is you being a member of society, being socially responsible. So please wear your mask.
I agree. A lot of people have questions about the types of mask and what's acceptable and what protects you more. And we are, like I said, this is a series. This is just the beginning of a conversation. So we are going to talk about this later. We'll talk about, virus facts and fiction. We will drop information on you. We'll answer those questions. But I agree with you, Tawny. I'm all about the masks. Anywhere I go, everywhere I go, and especially at work. I want to throw in something. About gloves and hand washing, because I see a lot of people with gloves, and that's great. Gloves serve as a barrier for your hands so that you don't touch surfaces that might have the coronavirus. But I also see a lot of people using those same gloves after they've touched several things to eat with them. I've seen them, touch surfaces and then touch their eyes. A lot of times gloves become a little bit of a crutch. So I want to impress on our viewers, please, please, please remember hand washing is really key. Gloves are great. I use them too. Even when I go to the grocery store, wherever I go, but I have to remember washing my hands for 20 seconds. I also remember hand sanitizer, if you can find it anywhere. But I think that's really important. Morgan, what are you leaving our viewers with?
This is real. I had someone, I went to get my eyebrows done the other day when they opened up, and the young lady said to me, she said, so is this thing real? Like, I paused. I said, yeah, it's real. People are dying. She said, so just old people, right? I said, no, everyone. Everyone is dying. We're seeing casualties from little kids to adults, and being out there, we're seeing multiple cases come in per day. So it's real, y'all. You guys are walking around without masks. You're trying to jump back into life as usual. We're not ready. Protect yourselves. Stay home when you can, and wear your masks. It's real.
Thanks. I agree. It's real. It's not a fairy tale. Those living it are feeling it harder, but I feel like the degrees of separation are closing. So what seems so distant, like, oh, I don't really know anyone except for patients I might see in the hospital, is now becoming my friend's father, my friend's sister. And I pray to God that it doesn't get even closer than that. So Morgan, you're right. This is real. Ladies, viewers, I want to thank you all for coming to When Docs Talk. I know that you all have lots of questions. You have questions that you want answered. I see the comments that you all have been making. I want you to know that we will have individual sessions with some of our guests that we'll post onto Facebook and YouTube so that you can get some of the questions you've asked during this session answered. I also want you all to hit us up on our When Docs Talk page at Facebook. Let us know what's on your mind, what you want to hear about. Like I said, we plan to talk about dating, sex, and intimacy in COVID-19, racism, and all the different aspects that intersect with COVID-19. But we want to know what's priority for you, because that's what we're going to be talking about. So let us know what you're thinking about. And I think the last thing that I want to do is just to celebrate you all, ladies. We started with you because I very much genuinely believe that in every woman, there's a superwoman. I call you all Sheroes. And when I call this episode Sheroes, I wasn't just talking about people in the healthcare industry. I'm talking about the homemaker who's there keeping her kids and her husband perhaps sane. I'm talking about the retiree, some of them who are coming out of retirement to help out. I'm talking about the school teachers. I'm talking about every woman, whatever hat she wears, and some of you who wear many, you're all Sheroes. So keep your chin up and let's just get through this together. But let's not isolate. Let's talk about it. Let's meet in forums like this, share our thoughts so that we don't lose that connection that is so easy to be lost while we're sheltering in place. Thank you all for joining us. I want to leave with some slideshows showing pictures of different women all across the US. I'd like to thank several people who helped with this broadcast. Miss Lindsay Harper, Mr. Nsidibe Ekbo, that's my son, Miss Dr. Omolara Uwemedu of Melanin Medicine and Motherhood, Dr. Haval Mohammed Kelly, Miss Brittany Smith, and of course, a very special thanks to all of our guests. You all dropped your stories, your opinions. You showed the faces of the varied number of women who are going through COVID-19. Your stories are unique, but I know there's a lot of viewers out there who share similar stories, and my heart goes out to everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on Saturday, May 16th. Don't miss it, because we're going to have some experts really tell us what we need to know. And once again, tell us what it is that you want to hear about more. Thank you for joining us at When Docs Talk. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. survivor, coach, teacher, lover. Doctor, fighter, nurse, writer. Leader, soulmate, fearless, great. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. Bestie, cousin, shy, pretty. Auntie, wifey, proud, feisty. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. Older, boss, brilliant, soldier. Mother, wife, sister, daughter. Cute, flawless, sexy, lawless. Survivor, thriver, lover, teacher,